No, it wasn't to our advantage. It was to the society's advantage to have these programs because that's the thing that kept people focused.
I'm excited about it.
And you'll see that. You didn't
2.2 million people are imprisoned in the US, more than in any country in the world. More than even China, who dwarfs us population-wise. When you count the people who aren't just incarcerated but on probation or parole, the number skyrockets to 6.9 million. That's 1 in 35 American adults caught up in the prison system. And for people of color, it's even worse. 1 out of every 3 African American men born today will go to jail or prison at some point in their lives. But why? How did the so-called land of the free put so many of its own citizens behind bars? If you think it was always like this, it wasn't.
I was thinking, while talking to some of the guys I've known and some of the guys I've seen out here, one thing I know for sure is that there is a whole lot of stuff I do not know. Even though I was in there and experiencing these things, everybody's experience is individual to the person. And the things that other guys have been through was really unique to that person. You know, the trauma, you can't pinpoint it and say that everybody experienced the same things, even though you were at the same time under the same conditions. Everybody's experience is unique to them, and you have to deal with it in that way. This has been cathartic for us, but other people get out and they have no way to deal with the trauma they experience. And we have to find a way to help them.
You know, there are policies in place that makes it harder for people that are returning to succeed. There are policies in place that makes it harder for them once they're released, before they're released to succeed, because they've taken away so many things while they were in prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like schools, vocational education. Those things were taken out when at one point you could go to college, you could obtain other kind of degrees. You had dog training, you had,
just basic adult basic education. They have taken these things, programs, photography, musics out of the prisons. And it's sad because, a lot of it was done because of political pressure, because, some parts of society would see these things and think, oh, well, these prisons are really living it up. They got music programs, they got art programs, No, it wasn't to our advantage. It was to the society's advantage to have these programs, because that's the thing that kept people focused and engaged in something that was working for them. That was a benefit to not only the prisons, but to the guards and to the atmosphere. And so people have used these programs that they did have and come on the street and was able to use it and to be successful, as in the person who is now the executive director of Ming Media. He used his craft that he learned in prison and came out and created a film industry. His first film that he was he got the grant for through Obama's office is called Pull of Gravity.
For a young dude coming home from jail and all he got is his homies. He's not gonna stay in the house with his parents. You wanna see the world. But the world that we living in right now is like a lot of negativity waiting for you.
You're really coming back to the same things that triggered a lot of the problems that you had. I mean, you're coming back to an area where there's really no job prospects. you're going right back into the narcotic trade because that's the only economy in some of these neighborhoods. That's all that you know.
If you want people to succeed, why would you take education out of the prisons? Why would you take education out of it? Why would you stop vocational programming, where you give these people, trades, which they had, is them that work the plumbing systems and throughout the jails, and then when they come home, they can't get a job doing those trades. That is them that cut hair and the carpentry shops and everything. They run the place, but then when they come home, they can't find jobs doing it. And then now they're cutting out all those programs that used to teach them those skills. They're cutting them out. They're taking them out of the programs, and out of the prisons. Even the recreational ones where you had people learning the box, and as you know, Bernard Hopkins came out of Greater Ford prison to become the middleweight champ of the world for 20 years, learning that skill in prison. So there are so many policies that are directly affecting folks that while they're there, and if you want them to succeed, it should behoove the policy makers to put that programming in a system that once they're released, they can come out and not be a further, as they see it, a hindrance to society. But they're not. They're doing the exact opposite. So that makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. And then you have folks that's coming out and it's hard enough to find jobs. They were just talking about in Delco yesterday, just in Delaware County, just yesterday, they're going to raise property tax by 17%. 17%, and this, you have people that's coming out just trying to find basic housing that don't have much money at all anyway, and then everything's hard for everybody, and then you have this on top of it. Anyway,
you're pointing out what's been cut out of the corrections system is probably a topic we could explore in a whole other conversation. Just sounds to me like they've taken correction out of corrections, or rehabilitation out of rehabilitation. Right. If one of the primary goals of the system is, say, to reduce recidivism, they've cut their own legs off, by having a chance to do that.
Right. So the question is that their goal, really, to reduce recidivism, or is it a business like, to just warehouse people,
right,
and make money off it?
Yeah,
it's like it's become a model to sustain itself business-wise.
And Debbie, I'm so glad you brought up the point of the mental side of it, because I think people don't understand the duress, the stress that comes with returning. It's, Steve, we talk about people just kind of getting a job or finding a house. Well, that's kind of external stuff that you see people going through. But what's invisible is what's going on the inside. Mm-hmm. And I think, Mike, either you or Debbie spoke to reconnecting with family, reconnecting with friends. That's a whole nother thing. Some of the functional stuff that people have to do, like get a job, like find housing, those external things are probably a lot easier than the internal things. But the external things, the absence of those external things, can make the internal things that much more difficult to deal with.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You hit it on the head, Ulysses. But despite the mental health, the mental struggle that we have with our own personal lives, our own children, our own situation, period. You know, we have to, you know, we had to make a life for ourselves.